Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going into a story, a true one, that honestly still casts this really chilling shadow over Halloween for a lot of people. It's about how one night, a night supposed to be about kids having fun, costumes, candy, turned into just an absolute nightmare. We're talking about the man who became known as the CANDYMAN, Ronald O'Bryan. And this isn't folklore. This happened. Deer Park, Texas, Halloween 1974. We're going to walk through what happened that night, the investigation that followed, and how it all unraveled. So let's set the scene. Halloween night, 1974, Deer Park, Texas. We have the O'Bryan family. There's Ronald, the father, Diane, the mother, and their two little kids, 8-year-old Timothy and 5-year-old Elizabeth. That evening, Ronald took the kids trick-or-treating. A neighbor came along, too, with his own child. Seems normal, right? Just a typical Halloween. They hit a few houses. Everything's fine. Then they get to this one house, and nobody answers the door. The kids, you know how they are, impatient. They run off to the next house with the neighbor. But Ronald, Timothy, and Elizabeth's dad, he hangs back for a second. Then he catches up with the group. And he's holding these 5 giant pixie sticks, the long, powdery candy tubes. He says, someone did answer after all, just handed him these. So he gives them out. One for Timothy, one for Elizabeth, one for the neighbor's kid who was with them, and one for the neighbor to take home to his other younger child, the last one. He gives it to some boy he apparently recognized from their church just walking by. They didn't stay out much longer after that, though. The weather got pretty bad. It started raining. So they cut the trick-or-treating short, only covered about 2 streets.
Yeah, and that detail, him staying behind alone, then suddenly having this specific candy, nobody else saw where it came from. It seems small at first, but looking back, it's one of those little inconsistencies that investigators often circle back to. A flag, even if a faint one at the time.
A flag that turned out to be incredibly significant. So they get home. And young Timothy, 8 years old, he wants some candy. He picks that giant pixie sticks his dad got, but he can't open it. It's got a staple, right across the top. Weird, right? So he asks his dad for help. Ronald opens it for him. Timothy takes a little bit of the powder and immediately says it tastes bad. Bitter, he called it. Said it didn't taste right. He spat it out. Ronald even gave him some Kool-Aid to, wash the taste away. But just minutes later, Timothy starts complaining his stomach really hurts, and then it just escalated. Fast. He ran to the bathroom, started throwing up violently, convulsing. Ronald said he just went limp in his arms. They called an ambulance right away. But it was too late. Timothy died on the way to the hospital. It was less than half an hour, maybe even less than 20 minutes after he tasted that candy. Gone. You can imagine the panic. News spread through the neighborhood instantly. Poison candy. Parents started grabbing their kids' bags, throwing stuff out. The police were swamped with calls, people turning in candy.
The speed of it all. The severity of the symptoms. Vomiting, convulsions, death in under 30 minutes. That screams potent poison to anyone in the medical field or law enforcement. It's not like typical food poisoning. This was fast. This was aggressive. Forensics later confirmed it. Cyanide, a massive dose.
Cyanide. It's terrifying stuff.
Yeah.
The police started questioning the family, obviously, especially Ronald, since he was the one out with Timothy. And the amount they found in that one pixie sticks, it was enough to kill 3 or 4 grown men. It was given to a child. They immediately put out an alert. Luckily, none of the other 4 kids who got one of those pixie sticks had eaten theirs yet. They managed to get them back quickly. Well, 3 of them were easy. His daughter, Elizabeth, and the neighbor's 2 kids. But finding that 5th one, the one given to the boy from church, that caused some real panic. The police tracked down the parents the next morning, frantically searched the boy's candy bag. Couldn't find it. They must have been terrified. They rushed to his room, and there he was, asleep. Still holding the unopened pixie sticks. He'd wanted to eat it before his nap, but he couldn't get the staple out either.
Just incredible luck. That staple saved his life. It really highlights how narrowly a wider tragedy was averted.
Absolutely. So now the police know it's deliberate poisoning. They press Ronald about the house.
Yeah.
Where did you get this candy? And at first he says he can't remember, which, seemed odd to the police. They only went down a couple of streets because of the rain, maybe 40, 50 houses max. How could he not remember? They went door to door. Every single house the group visited. Nobody gave out pixie sticks. Nobody. Finally, Ronald does point out a house, but his story is fuzzy. He says the person just cracked the door, didn't turn on a light, just stuck a hand out with the candy, said he couldn't see them. Well, the police check it out. The man who lived there, Courtney Melvin, he was an air traffic controller, and he had a rock-solid alibi. He was at work until 11 p.m. that night.
And not just his word for it, almost 200 coworkers confirmed he was there.
Exactly. So Melvin couldn't possibly have given out that candy. Ronald's story just didn't add up. And that's when the focus really, really shifted. Away from some random stranger and directly onto Ronald O'Bryan.
Right. Because why lie? Why be vague about the source of the poison candy unless you have something to hide about how it really got there? When an alibi falls apart like that and the person providing the information seems evasive, well, investigators know they're likely looking at the perpetrator, not just a witness.
And when they started digging into Ronald's life, things got even darker. They found out he was in serious financial trouble, like really deep trouble. Reports said he owed something like $100,000, which was a huge amount back then. He couldn't hold down a job, kept bouncing around. At the time Timothy died, he was working as an optician. Apparently, he was suspected of stealing there, close to getting fired. His car was about to be repossessed. The house was facing foreclosure, just desperate. But then came the life insurance policies. That was the real bombshell. In January of that year, just months before, he'd taken out $10,000 policies on both Timothy and Elizabeth. Okay, maybe not that unusual. But then just a month before Halloween, he added another $20,000 policy on each child. And then, get this, just days before Halloween, he took out a third policy, another $20,000 each. So by Halloween night, each of his children was insured for around $60,000 for an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old when he could barely pay his bills.
It's astronomically high for children, especially given his financial situation. It immediately raises red flags about motive. Why insure kids for that much unless you anticipate something happening?
And Diane, his wife, the children's mother, she told police she had absolutely no idea. None. Didn't know about any life insurance on the kids. And here's the coldest part. The very next morning, November 1st, the day after Timothy died, Ronald called the insurance companies, asking how to collect the money.
Wow. Less than 24 hours later. That's incredibly callous.
And highly suspicious behavior.
Then another piece fell into place. A local chemical supply store contacted the police. They remembered a guy trying to buy cyanide about a week before Halloween. Said he wanted a huge amount, way more than legally allowed without a license, which he didn't have. They turned him away. And their description matched Ronald O'Bryan. So now you have the means attempted access to cyanide. The motive overwhelming debt and huge recently increased insurance policies. And the opportunity, he was the one who supposedly received and distributed the candy. It paints a pretty clear and incredibly chilling picture of premeditation. It wasn't random. It looks like a calculated plan driven by greed.
Exactly. The police theory became pretty clear. He poisoned his own kids for the insurance money. And giving the other poisoned pixie sticks away, that was likely his attempt to make it look random, like some maniac was poisoning kids all over to throw suspicion off himself. A truly horrific plan.
If multiple children had died or gotten sick, the focus would have been on finding that mystery house, not the father. It's a chillingly logical, if utterly depraved, strategy.
So on November 5th, Ronald O'Bryan was arrested, charged with 1 count of capital murder for Timothy and 4 counts of attempted murder for Elizabeth and the other 3 children. He pleaded not guilty, maintained his innocence right through. But the trial, the evidence was just overwhelming. Remember that friend of his, the chemist? He testified Ronald had been asking you about cyanide for months, where to get it, how much kills someone, how it works. Said Ronald got very strange about it.
That kind of testimony about prior interest in the specific murder weapon is incredibly powerful for a prosecution.
And the salesman from the chemical store, he identified Ronald in court. Said that's the guy who tried to buy cyanide. Plus other friends, co-workers. They all testified about his, quote, weird interest in cyanide in the months leading up. It wasn't a secret fascination. And maybe the most damning testimony, his own brother-in-law and sister-in-law. They testified that at Timothy's funeral, Ronald wasn't grieving. He was talking about the insurance money, what he'd buy with it, planning a trip, while his son had just been buried.
That lack of appropriate emotion, especially talking about financial gain at his own child's funeral, juries find that incredibly disturbing. It speaks volumes about character and potential motive.
It didn't take the jury long. June 3rd, 1975. They deliberated for just 45 minutes. Guilty, capital murder, 4 counts of attempted murder. Then they took another hour, maybe 70 minutes, to decide the sentence. Death. After the conviction, Diane divorced him. She later remarried, and her new husband adopted Elizabeth. They tried to, build some kind of life after such an immense tragedy.
It's a classic case where even without a direct witness saying, I saw him put cyanide in the candy, the sheer weight of this circumstantial evidence becomes undeniable. The debt, the insurance, the cyanide inquiries, the lies, the behavior, it all weaves together. Like you said, it's like a net. There was just no escaping the conclusion the evidence pointed to.
Yeah. He spent 10 years on death row. Reports say life inside was rough for him. Other inmates apparently targeted him, because he killed a child. It's a label that carries weight even in prison. Getting to the actual execution took a long time, though. Lots of appeals, delays. His first execution date was set for August 1980, but his lawyer got it postponed. Then another date in May 82, postponed again. Then they set one for Halloween 1982, the 8th anniversary of Timothy's murder. The judge was apparently furious about the delays, even said he'd drive O'Bryan to the execution chamber himself if he had to.
That's quite a statement from a judge. Shows the level of frustration with the appeals process in this case.
Yeah, but even that one got delayed by the Supreme Court for another appeal. That appeal failed, though. Finally, a fourth date was set, March 31st, 1984. His lawyer tried one last time, arguing lethal injection was cruel and unusual punishment.
A con tactic and death penalty appeals challenging the method itself.
But the judges rejected it this time. So on March 31st, 1984, Ronald Clark O'Bryan was executed by lethal injection. His final words. He maintained his innocence, said the death penalty was wrong. And outside the prison, well, it was quite a scene. A crowd of about 300 people had gathered, and they cheered when he died. Some people were shouting, "Trick or treat," throwing candy in the air. It was this really intense, visceral reaction.
It's quite symbolic, isn't it? The crowd using the very symbols of the holiday he twisted, trick-or-treating candy as a form of protest and perhaps reclaiming that innocence he destroyed. It really underscores just how deeply this crime cut. It wasn't just murder. It was seen as an attack on childhood, on trust, on a community celebration. That reaction reflects that profound sense of violation.
So that's the story of Ronald O'Bryan, the CANDYMAN. A truly horrific tale that started with a father's greed and ended with the tragic death of his own son, Timothy, and the shattering of Halloween's innocence for so many. It's a chilling reminder, isn't it? That sometimes the real monsters aren't wearing masks for fun. Sometimes they're hidden in plain sight, capable of unthinkable darkness. It definitely changed how people approach trick-or-treating, made everyone a little more cautious, a little more suspicious. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the CANDYMAN case. It's a disturbing one, but important to remember. If you found this story compelling, please do remember to like, share, and subscribe to Horror Docs. We dive into true tales like this regularly, exploring the darker side of history and human nature. Your support really helps us keep bringing these stories to you. We look forward to sharing more with you soon. Thanks for listening, and stay safe.